talked a lot about Travion Henderson and some of the tracks on these plays maybe can be a little better. I want to make sure to make the point that I'm not pinning all of the struggles running the ball on the decisions the running back makes. When we talk about execution, that can be execution in the back, that can be execution up front, it can be execution on the quarterback. There's a lot of things that go into this. So, but we're looking again at a play here. The ball's on the hash. The formation strength is to the field, and Ohio State sometimes will do that to give the look that maybe they're going to run the ball that way, but in actuality, they'll run to the weak side, which is what they do here. So it's kind of trying to use formation to your advantage, as opposed to kind of running to the run strength. So you'll see here, like Penn State was still trying to respect Ohio State's ability to play action off of plays out of the pistol or plays from under center. You'll see the defensive end at the top of the screen. He drops out of the play into zone coverage in case this is going to be a slant or some kind of RPO to Marvin Harrison Jr. They want to make sure to kind of cut that off. So it was something that Penn State was respecting despite the fact that Ohio State never did it. Again, I think the run game can be greatly benefited by mixing in more play action. They just never got to it for whatever reason in this game. But even on this play, it's a 3-yard loss on a stretch play into the boundary, and it's just not well blocked at all up front. There's way too much penetration on this play. I mean, really kind of across the board. I wouldn't even pin it on just one guy. I know 91 is the one who makes this stop, and you probably want to blame Matthew Jones for that, but there's 3 or 4 guys in the backfield at the time that the ball is exchanged from the quarterback to the running back. So this probably speaks to the tendency here. You can assume that this is where the ball's going to go, overplay it aggressively, and when that ball's exchanged, there's one guy almost fully in the backfield, another 2 or 3 making their way there. There's just really no push up front, and that happens from time to time. If the expectation is that every play is blocked perfectly, then you're going to be disappointed more often than not. So this is a moment where it wasn't blocked well at all. Not really the running back's fault whatsoever. He just really doesn't have anywhere to go. You can want him, I suppose, to try to stiff arm that defensive tackle and bounce this outside. That's a really difficult ask of Travion Henderson here. So he's just kind of got no shot on this play. It's really no fault of his own. But if you look at the backside of the play, there's a bubble there with Julian Fleming kind of out as a receiver, Emeka Ibuka and Cade Stover there to block. And I know that people were going nuts watching all the bubble plays that went for no gain in this game, but they serve a purpose as reliefs in plays like this. So this is a negative rushing play that I think you pin on the offensive line, because I'm not even so sure that Ohio State's outnumbered here. That's not necessarily the wrong decision to not, on CJ Stroud's part, pull this ball and throw that bubble in a run pass option look. But if he had, it's certainly a more advantageous position for Ohio State than running into this look. I think there's no guarantee based on the success of bubbles at other points in this game that throwing it to Julian Fleming would work. But I do believe that CJ Stroud has the option here to kind of just drop back and throw this, or kind of spin out of that, boot out of that run fake and kind of toss it out there to the perimeter, which is, albeit a little bit of a risky throw, I suppose. And 33 does a good job of protecting against the boot action. So I probably mostly want to chalk it up to this being well defended by Penn State, but I mostly wanted to highlight, one, that not every run that didn't quite hit for what it should have hit for was because the running back didn't do his job. Sometimes it was miscues from the offensive line, sometimes it was miscues from the back, and there are other times too where there's a decision to be made on the part of the quarterback on whether or not to hand the ball off or throw it, and I think Ryan Day and CJ Stroud will tell you that sometimes different decisions can be made in that regard to make plays more successful too. So we did talk a lot, like the whole sort of impetus of this is them running 100% of the time out of these looks and oftentimes running into the short side of the field. I do think this is one instance where they did get a little bit ganged up on, but I largely don't think that was an issue throughout the game. I think it was more, again, execution, decision-making than it was the tipping of a hand via formation. I still think they can benefit from much more play action out of this stuff. We've seen it happen up to this point in the season. I think we'll see it in the future. They got a little stuck on running the ball out of these looks in this game. They were fairly efficient out of the pistol. This was the only negative run out of the pistol for them all game. They were less so from under center, but by the end of the game, they had worn Penn State's defense down to the point where they were getting some successful runs sort of out of whichever formation they decided to line up in. So it's problematic, I think is a fair way to put it, to run 100% of the time out of any formation, but I'm not necessarily certain that was Ohio State's undoing in this game. I just think they have some things they need to clean up in the run game, both from last week and from this week. And you saw what successful runs can look like for Ohio State at points in both games. It just needs to be more consistent for them to be a more efficient overall rushing team than they've shown themselves to be the last 2 weeks.